Hey, this is Sean Chandler with the Non-Essentials, and I want to give you my quick review of The Amazing Spider-Man Part 2. I saw it yesterday with my mother for Mother's Day, and I hope you did something wonderful for your mother for Mother's Day. So, this is the second part in Marc Webb's Amazing Spider-Man series, and I gotta say, my quick start-off review is that it was very mediocre. Very mediocre film. It had some really great things about it, but it had just some things that were just so blatantly flawed and silly about it as well. So starting off with the good, this movie has some great relationships. That's really, throughout the movie, that's what really works, is the relationships between people. When there's just dialogue and two people that know each other, are friends, they're dating, family members, when they're just talking to each other, this movie works. And I suspect that might be because that's what the director, that's his sweet spot. That's what he did prior to getting into this series, is he made a movie that was really good, that was all about relationships. And then he jumped into blockbuster territory. And on the blockbuster side, it's kind of a mess, but on the side to it that's relationships, it really works. Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield, they just connect. It works. It makes sense. Peter Parker with his aunt, that works. Peter Parker with his buddy Harry, that works. Now on the bad side, the story is just all over the place. There's all these story threads, and I guess the best way to describe it would be to say it felt to me like you're watching a serialized TV show, and so things kept happening, but it didn't feel like it was building to one thing. It was just like all these storylines, plot lines that kept going, and you're like, okay, I know it's going to end with a final battle like this. I know that this is gonna happen, but it didn't feel inevitable. It didn't feel like it was building to it. And there's just all these plot lines that didn't feel like they meshed together. They didn't feel like they needed to be there. You could easily take half the plot lines they had and totally cut them out of the movie, and nothing would have been lost. You would have gained. The movie's over 2 hours long, and you're just some of the plot lines you didn't care about, and they didn't have anything to do with anything. And so just the plot lines didn't work. Jamie Foxx's character, no problem with his performance in the sense that he did what he was directed to do and he did that well, but the character he plays, Max, is just a complete goofball. He doesn't fit in the universe that they created that's a little bit more realistic. It really doesn't fit in light of like Andrew Garfield's acting style, which is so naturalistic. He really feels like an awkward teenager. I work with awkward teenagers, and he feels like an awkward teenager. And then you have this Max character that feels like he's straight out of a cartoon. It doesn't fit. The action sequences have amazing special effects. The problem is they feel like it's a video game sequence. It's like if you've ever played a video game based off of a movie, there's the part where the main villain's throwing things at you and you're jumping onto different things trying to avoid him in circles. And you've never seen a movie where it happens and plays out like that until you've seen this movie, and it feels just like this incredible video game, except it's a movie, and so it just feels very disjointed. It doesn't feel realistic. It doesn't feel like how this would really unfold. The villains in it are, like I said, played by great actors, but their motivations are just stupid. Like, you're watching it thinking, what? Like, this doesn't have to play out like this is playing out. Hey, there's a bug behind me. It doesn't have to play out like this. But it does. And so you're just watching it, and feels like the first draft of a script where too many cooks were in the kitchen, and the director really wanted this movie about relationships. The studio really wanted to throw in a bunch of big bad guys. And then they had this whole other subplot about his parents that you're going, where did this come from? So in the end, I enjoyed my time watching it. I didn't hate it. I'm sure I'll watch it again at some point in time, but it's one of those movies that I don't have any desire to go watch again. I guess I'd probably give it about a 6 out of 10. It's not awful. It's kind of enjoyable when the action's happening, but it's goofy. It's way too long. The tone is all over the place. It's very serious, and then it's goofy, or it's goofy, followed very much by a serious relational music. And one final thing, the music in it is very odd. Like, they'll have a song play, and it's like a great song, but it's so heavy-handed, and it just takes you out of the movie because you're focusing on the song so much. So in the end, it was enjoyable, but it was really disappointing, and it had some major flaws. So Out of 0 to 10, I'm going to give The Amazing Spider-Man about 6 out of 10. So, but I hope you enjoy it and hope you aren't bothered by it, but that's my take on it. That's my review. Thanks.